Working on Sunday is certainly not a sin, nor is it prohibited by the Bible. The belief that Christians should refrain from working on Sundays stems from a misunderstanding of Old Testament Sabbath observance for the Israelites and its connection to Sunday worship in Christianity. According to Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11, the Sabbath is the seventh day of the week, designated for rest as a reminder of God's creation of the universe in 6 days, after which he rested on the seventh day. Keeping the Sabbath holy meant abstaining from work on that day. When God provided manna in the desert during the Israelites in Exodus, he commanded that it be gathered for only 6 days, with enough collected on the sixth day to sustain the people during the Sabbath rest. Gathering the manna was considered work, similar to planting and harvesting. According to Exodus chapter 31, verse 14 through 16, and chapter 35, verse 2, anyone who worked on the Sabbath faced the death penalty, and buying or selling on that day was regarded as a violation of the Sabbath. See Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 15 through 17. Clearly, to keep the Sabbath day holy, the Israelites were required to cease all work. The Sabbath was instituted so the Israelites could rest from their labors, only to resume after a day of rest. So why aren't Christians required to observe the same law? The key lies in understanding that the various aspects of the Sabbath symbolize the coming Messiah, who would fulfill the law by providing a lasting rest for his people rather than a temporary one. Under the Old Testament law, the Jews were constantly striving to make themselves acceptable to God, which involved adhering to the commandments of the ceremonial, temple, and sacrificial laws. Since it was impossible for them to keep all these laws, God instituted various sin offerings and sacrifices to enable them to seek his forgiveness and restore fellowship with him, albeit temporarily. Just as the Israelites resumed their physical labor after a day of rest, they also had to continue offering sacrifices. However, Hebrews chapter 10 verse 1 explains that the law can never, by the same sacrifices repeated endlessly year after year, make perfect those who draw near to worship. These sacrifices were made in anticipation of Christ's ultimate sacrifice on the cross, which is highlighted in Hebrews chapter 10 verse 12. After he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, he sat down at the right hand of God. Jesus rested after completing this ultimate act of atonement, as there was nothing more to be done. Because of his sacrifice, we are no longer required to labor under the law to be justified in God's eyes, including observing the Sabbath. Jesus came so that we might find true rest in God and in what he has provided. When Jesus said, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath," Mark chapter 2, verse 27, he was emphasizing that the purpose of the Sabbath rest was to alleviate the burdens of mankind. Similarly, Jesus came to free us from the need to earn salvation through our own efforts. Our rest is no longer limited to just one day. Instead, we can forever cease our striving for God's favor. Jesus is our rest from works, just as he is the gateway to heaven, where we will find eternal rest in him. There is no Sabbath rest apart from Jesus. He alone fulfills the requirements of the law and provides the sacrifice that atones for sin. He is God's solution for our need to stop relying on our own works. However, Christians who work on Sunday should recognize that worship isn't confined to a specific day of the week. Rather, it should be an integral part of their daily lives. Working on Sunday is not sin.